Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to part 2 of this amazing 2023 Fiba Basketball World Cup series, where we will talk about the important players that y'all should know from each national team that will be competing in this year's World Cup. In today's video, we will discuss Group C and D. So if you haven't checked out episode 1 of this series, be sure to watch that video first before watching this one, because I do not want to spoil y'all, because I'm not that type of guy. And the link to episode 1 will be shown in both the description and a pinned comment by this very channel below. By the way, feel free to skip ahead in this video's timeline to the specific country that you want to learn more about. Got it? Now we got all that out of the way, let's begin this video by first talking about Group C. Group C has the US, Jordan, Greece, and New Zealand. Let's start this video off by first talking about the US. The US is ranked as the second best team in the world according to the FIBA rankings, and the US's head coach is Golden State's current head coach Steve Kerr, who, as we all know, has won many titles as a coach in Golden State and as a player for the Chicago Bulls. The US is obviously bringing a roster full of NBA players. I mean, just look at this roster. Team USA's best player has to be Anthony Edwards from the Minnesota Timberwolves because he is their only superstar / all-star. The US's best defensive player has to be Triple J himself, Jaren Jackson Jr., because he is the reigning NBA Defensive Player of the Year. The US's X Factor has to be Austin Reeves from the Los Angeles Lakers because Austin's game is the mere definition of an X Factor because he is more than capable of surprising people with his unpredictable style of play on both ends of the floor. Next, I will talk about Jordan. Jordan is ranked as the 33rd best team in the world according to the FIBA rankings, and Jordan's head coach is Wessam Al-Sous, who has coached multiple Jordanian national teams, and fun fact, he played for Jordan's national team for 14 years as a player, and Coach Wessam is actually one of the most respected figures in the Jordanian basketball world today. But even though Jordan is not bringing in any current NBA players, they are bringing in now naturalized former NBA player Rondae Hollis Jefferson. Yes, the same Rondae Hollis Jefferson who played for the Brooklyn Nets back in 2018. RHJ is obviously their best player because he is a former NBA player who is now well experienced in the overseas style of basketball. Jordan's best defensive player is the big man Ahmed Al-Dwari. Al-Dwari is a traditional center who is fundamentally sound in his offensive and defensive game. Plus, he can also be an amazing secondary playmaker at times with his great feel for the game that is paired with his excellent passing, and I do not expect him to slow down in this year's World Cup because he had the best scoring performance in the last World Cup, scoring 34 points against the Dominican Republic. Jordan's X Factor, in my opinion, has to be Amin Abu Hawas, who is capable of putting up points in a hurry with his amazing finishing ability around the rim that is paired with his excellent defense and consistent jump shot, as Amin actually averaged 13.2 points, 2.7 rebounds, and 1.8 assists per game in the qualifiers. Next, I will talk about Greece. Greece is ranked as the 9th best team in the world according to the FIBA rankings, and Greece's head coach is Dimitris Itaudis, who has coached multiple Greece national teams, and he has coached professionally all around Europe. And fun fact, Coach Itaudis is a 7-time EuroLeague champion, and this basically makes him a legend in the European basketball world. Greece will still bring in one NBA player who is Thanasis Antetokounmpo, even if his brother Giannis is not playing in this year's World Cup due to injury. But Thanasis is not Greece's best player in my opinion because that title belongs to the EuroLeague superstar Thomas Walkup, who is now Greece's naturalized player. And Thomas is technically one of the best players in Europe because of his amazing offensive arsenal that is paired with his unbelievable court vision. Plus, the dude is also an amazing defender, as Thomas averaged 1.4 steals per game last EuroLeague season, so I don't expect anything less from Thomas in this year's World Cup. But even though Greece actually lost Giannis, Kostis, Kalathis, and Sloukis, they still have a solid team that can actually have a deep run in this year's World Cup. Like for example, Greece's best defensive player, the big man Yorios Papagiannis, not just because he's 7'2", but he is a great example of a modern center in basketball today. Yorios is actually a stretch 5 who can shoot threes very well and efficiently, and he surprisingly has a smooth jump shot for a 7-footer. I mean, look at this jump shot. Greece's X-Factor has to be Ioannis Papapetrou because Papapetrou is a very versatile 3-and-D player that can impact both ends of the floor with his size and great offensive instincts. And he really just fits the mold of an X-Factor because he has the ability to score at a surprising rate when his shots fall. Lastly, I will talk about New Zealand to end our discussion for Group C. New Zealand is ranked as the 26th best team in the world according to the Fiba rankings. New Zealand's head coach is Pero Cameron, who has coached multiple New Zealand national teams, and he has coached professionally in New Zealand, Europe, and Australia. And he's technically also known as one of the biggest figures in the Oceanian basketball world, and he is a FIBA Hall of Famer. Anyways, New Zealand is not bringing in any NBA players, but they still have a lot of great local talent, even though they are not bringing the Webster brothers this year. Ruben Tarangi is obviously their best player since he's one of the best players in New Zealand, and also because he averaged 14.8 points per game in the qualifiers. New Zealand's best defensive player is the big man Sam Timmins in my opinion because he can consistently give his 100% effort on both ends of the floor. New Zealand's X-Factor in my opinion is Shea Ely because he plays in NBL Australia, and he performed really well during the qualifiers with averages of 13.3 points, a team leading 5 assists, and 3.7 rebounds per game. Alright y'all, let's now talk about Group D. Group D has Egypt, Mexico, Montenegro, and Lithuania. And I will first start this discussion by first talking about Egypt. Egypt is ranked as the 55th best team in the world according to the FIBA rankings, and Egypt's head coach is the Indian-Canadian Roy Rana. Coach Roy is a very experienced coach who has coached collegiately with Ryerson University, and he has professionally coached in the NBA and currently in Japan. And Egypt will not bring an NBA player, but even without an NBA player, Egypt still has a lot of talent. Ehab Saleh is obviously their best player because he is the reigning Egyptian League MVP and a 2023 Basketball Africa League champion. Plus, Ehab actually averaged 14.5 points per game in the qualifiers. Egypt's best defensive player is Asim Murray in my opinion because he can consistently play defense and grab rebounds at such a high rate. Plus, he averaged 12.6 points and 9.1 rebounds per game in the qualifiers. Egypt's X-Factor in my opinion is Amr Gendi because he can score the ball very well, and he averaged 12.6 points and 4.3 rebounds per game in the qualifiers. Next, I will talk about Mexico. Mexico is ranked as the 31st best team in the world according to the FIBA rankings, and Mexico's head coach is the 3-time CIBA Copa champion Omar Quintero, who has played professionally in Mexico and Venezuela. And fun fact, he was a FIBA AmeriCup top scorer back in 2003. But even though Mexico will not bring their lone NBA player Juan Toscano Anderson from the Utah Jazz, they are still bringing in a lot of talent, and I'm not joking about that. Paco Cruz is obviously their best player because he currently plays in Turkey, plus he's one of Mexico's best guards, and he led the team in scoring with averages of 17 points, 2.1 rebounds, and 4 assists per game in the qualifiers. Mexico's best defensive player is the undersized Fabian James because he averaged 9.2 points and 7.6 rebounds in the qualifiers, plus at the height of 6'6", he out-rebounded Mexico's best bigs in the qualifiers, and that alone says how great he is on the defensive end. Mexico's X factor in my opinion is Gabriel Giron because he can score at a very high level and he can make Mexico's offense flow very well by just simply scoring the ball with his deep bag of offensive tricks like a magician, and that's why he's one of the best players in all of the Americas. Next, we will talk about Montenegro. Montenegro is ranked as the 18th best team in the world according to the Fiba rankings. Montenegro's head coach is the Montenegrin Boško Radovic. Montenegro is actually bringing in one NBA player after securing Nikola Vucevic's commitment. Vucevic is obviously both their best player and best defensive player since he is indeed an NBA player and he's also a two-time NBA All-Star. And I do not need to explain further because it's Nikola Vucevic and y'all should know him already. Montenegro's X factor in my opinion is the veteran Vladimir Mihailovic, who is hands down Montenegro's most crafty scorer because he averaged 13.3 points in last year's Eurobasket tournament, and he also performed really well in this year's qualifiers with averages of 15 points, 2.7 rebounds, and 2.2 assists per game. The last national team that I will discuss in today's video is Lithuania. Lithuania is ranked as the 8th best team in the world according to the Fiba rankings. Lithuania's head coach is Kazis Maksvytis, who has coached many professional teams in Lithuania, and he is the current head coach of the Lithuanian EuroLeague powerhouse Žalgiris. Sadly, Lithuania will not bring their NBA superstar Domantas Sabonis, but even without their NBA superstar, Lithuania is still bringing in an NBA player who is Jonas Valanciunas, and they are also still bringing in a lot of talent. Jonas Valanciunas is obviously both their best player and best defensive player because he's in the NBA and he averaged 14.5 points and 11 rebounds per game in the qualifiers. Lithuania's X factor in my opinion is the young Rukas Jokubaitis from FC Barcelona because of his incredible potential and court vision, as he averaged 9 points and a team-leading 7 assists per game in the qualifiers, and I won't be surprised if Rukas continues to dish out amazing passes in the World Cup like a chef. And that basically wraps up our discussion about Groups C and D of the 2023 FIBA Basketball World Cup. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, to tune in next episode because I will cover Groups E and F. Alright peeps, make sure y'all leave a like in today's video to show me that y'all enjoyed the video from start to finish. And I will greatly appreciate it if you hit the red subscribe button below to join the OTL family today. So I suggest y'all hit it. God bless you and see you next time. Goodbye.